So the main view starts with what we call site view. And this starts with the ability to add a space. And this is very different from virtually every other software out there where you start by thinking about what hardware you're using. Not in Cognio, you start with the spaces. So I can have multiple spaces within a site file. So I'm just going to add 3 here. And these spaces can be used for any organizational need, but most commonly is to have them be represented of rooms or physical spaces. So if we want to do a site that represents that school we were working on, excuse me, I could call this first space the office, and the second space might be the gym, and the third space be our um, classroom, the first of many classrooms. Now we can give spaces colors just to help identify them. And each space is completely independent from a signal flow standpoint. So if I double click on each space, I can see the office, the gym, the classroom, and each of these spaces has its own signal flow. But audio can be transferred between each space. Control can be transferred between each space. I can have touchscreens or remotes that control parameters in any and all spaces. So the spaces have control and audio transferring between them, but they are independent from a design. And as I mentioned before, they're independent from an online offline status. Now, right now, I don't have any hardware in my system. I'm in a isolated network here for presentation purposes, so I don't have any hardware. But you can do a huge amount offline. It starts by the fact that you'll notice Cognio spaces don't actually have a specific piece of hardware. It says unspecified Cognio device. And that's because you can go through the complete design process before having to commit to a piece of hardware, or you can change your mind as you go. So I could have a single C100 server running all of these spaces, or I could have a C20 running the gym because it needs a little more processing. And every other space is going to be a touchscreen. In the office, it's going to be a T10, while on the classroom, they need the smallest, least expensive one, our 5-inch. You have that flexibility to make that decision at the beginning or the end. And each of these spaces, as I said, can be pushed online or offline independently. So when a design is running, I could have a office and gym being operated upon and used for a basketball game and a meeting in the office, while I need to do some changes in the classroom. Well, I can sync the gym and the office, leaving them online, while I can unsync the classroom, make changes, and push those changes without affecting any audio in the office or the gym, even if they're running on the same piece of hardware. So let's look at what we can do in a signal flow. Now, I mentioned we revisited some of the norms with designing DSP signal flows. And we watched a lot of people use lots of different software, and we identified some common slowdowns that we wanted to address. On the left, you'll see the toolkit has changed now to show me all of the modules I can add to a site, or to my signal flow, excuse me. So I'm going to add in an audio input here, and looks kind of normal for now, but the main slowdown we noticed was how much time people spend manually drawing wires. And so we have removed that. And as I drag in that gain, you'll see it automatically connects to the audio input. The importance is the connection. The importance is not you taking the time to click one end and drag it to another. So our automatic wiring, which is now patented, really makes designing systems incredibly fast. So how does it work? Well, if it's on the same row, it automatically connects. That gain has nothing after it. So it's not connecting to anything. If I add an output after, you'll see it makes a connection. If I drop a module right onto a wire, it goes in place and makes the connection. I can replace a module simply by dragging on top. It goes red, and now I've replaced that EQ. I can insert a module, shifting the other module again to the right. I can also dynamically control how many inputs and outputs each module has. So I'm going to add a matrix here and say it is going to have 3 inputs. And I'm just clicking on those plus, and I've added 3 inputs to that matrix. And I could manually drag more inputs there, or I could simply select a group of modules and use the key command to duplicate. And now I've shifted those down, duplicating them, making a 3-input mixer. Now we've improved the workflow and made it even faster to do repetitive designs like this. Usually you're not making 3 channels, you're making 8, 10, 12. Well, let's show you how fast that could be. I'm just going to select a group of cells. Actually, let me start on the first one here. And I'm going to double click on a module. And you see it inserted those modules and shifted the target to the right. So now I can just simply double click. And as fast as I can double click, I can add modules to the system. I double click on a matrix. It's smart and makes a single module with that many inputs and outputs. So let's add our output legs. We want parametric EQ, compressor limiter, and alignment delay. And let's add those audio outputs. And I don't know about you, but that is definitely the fastest I've ever seen outside of Cognio building an 8-input, 8-output mixer. And everything is still dynamic. I can delete modules and that wire will make a connection. And I can edit, even I could add another channel to that matrix. Oops, I clicked and dragged it by mistake. Let me click plus. And now I've added another input to that matrix and I can expand it as needed. Now, the next improvement we made has to do with editing modules. Now, whenever we watch people edit modules, again, whether it's Composer, QSys, or Biamp, what we ended up seeing was people double-clicking on a bunch of modules, opening them up, arranging a bunch of small windows, editing those DSP modules like the EQ and compressor, and then closing those up and opening more modules, and then making those edits and closing them again. So you're just opening and closing, managing small windows. It's a pain. There's a faster way. On the right panel in Cognio, we have what we call the modifier panel, which shows you the controls. And so if I just select a single module, it updates to show me the controls for that module. And that's cool. But where it's really fast is you can select multiple modules at once. So I've selected my audio input, my input leg, and you see it shows them all in signal flow order, just like a channel strip. And I can scroll and control and make changes. And now you can edit that channel strip dynamically. And I can do the same on the outputs. Let me just scroll to the right a bit and select the output leg. And now I see that output leg and I can change controls there. And again, see everything in signal flow order. I can even navigate selecting another batch of channels or modules, excuse me. Or I can even use a keyboard shortcut to go up a selection. So as you see, it's highlighting the next row. So this makes it really easy to go leg by leg and make your changes. And you can also select vertically. So if I select all of those delay modules, I see everything in context, all of my alignment delays. I can make a change to one, see how it relates to the other, and I can even hold a shift and make a change, and now all of them are changing relative to one another. This is incredibly powerful, incredibly fast, and unlike anything else out there. With Cognio, you're designing systems faster than ever before, focusing on what matters. Now, there's way more features here, and we're going to dive into these in much more detail in the next software-focused webinar. Let's keep going of our tour and talk about control. So I'm going to go back to my site file here, and in the gym, I'm going to add a control panel group. And a control panel group is a group of control panels. Now, you'll notice the spaces that are using touchscreens actually already started with a control panel group, the T10C and the classroom. And there's a tab at the top that lets me see all of my panels and manage them. And they show me live previews, and we'll see those in a second. So I can add panels to a control panel group. I'm going to add a few more to this gym. And then I can double click on one of them to start to edit it. I'm going to open the toolkit here and show you that in Cognio, you can start with unmapped controls to edit and create your control panel groups. So one of the very first things you're going to want to do is deal with navigation. And we've made that incredibly easy. Because we have the structure of control panel groups, we have this inherent built-in knowledge of panels that relate to one another. So I can just simply add a radio button and say I want that to be used for navigation, say that I want that to be shown on all my panels, and I want that to be an automatic navigation control. And once I make that selection, you'll notice that the control panel group shows me that radio button with the name of each panel. So I can select this first panel and say, this is called home. Now this is my home panel. And I could go back to my all control panel group where I see the updated preview, and I could add another panel. And once I do, you'll see that all of those panels have updated to show me 4 buttons now to navigate between them. And I can add different controls onto each one. I'm just going to add a few random controls just to show. So now when I go to operation mode, I can preview the functionality and navigate between those different panels that I've created. To assign a control, I can simply select the control, go into the function, and say, I want this to be assigned to a parameter, and I want this to be the main gain of that module. You can also directly drag controls from a design into a control panel group. So I'm just going to select this output, which has a fader, and I'm going to go into my mapping mode where I want to assign it to control panel group 1, and I can simply drag it. I see a preview of where I want to drop it, and now it is right on that control panel group. So that allows you through that workflow to add multiple very quickly and easily. Let's delete that for now. And let me just add a few more controls. And let's talk about how do we make these look unique. Having a personality and a unique look and feel is important. And we have decoupled the design of how things look from how they operate. So the function that we just showed is here on the function tab, while the design is here on the design tab. And to start with, you can simply load templates, or themes that changes the look of a bunch of controls at once. Actually, I forgot to LED. Let's put that in there too. And I'm just going to select all of these controls and say, let's recall the blue theme, or this dawn theme, or this theme I call neon. And you can see what a huge variety I've been able to achieve. Purple, red. Not very good at making unique names. I just name them after the color. Here's one that reuses the composer look and feel if you really like that. And these themes are not just built in. These are all user creatable in our custom control theme manager. So you can go into a theme and create a new one. So I have a brand new one here, custom control theme, and I can select any control and change it, all without having to use any third-party design software. So let's do some changes here and make our own theme. I want to change the cap style, and I want to make it bigger. I want the fill color to be green. Let's make that cap color a really dark sort of blue, but now I want those highlights to be more of a white. Its thickness, I want it to be a little narrower. I want it to be, do I want it square? No, let's make it more round. And what I really love is this glow. So with just a single slider, you can add glow or drop shadow onto controls. It makes it look really cool. I can add a border. So all of these controls are things that make sense to an AV control system, not controls that make sense in a design software system like Photoshop. And with just a click, you can add common things like scale or up-down buttons. These are obviously things that people add all the time. I can change the size of those, and let's make those utilize this up arrow instead. And I want a readout so I can see the value here. And I'm going to change the readout to be on top instead of on the bottom. And I want that to have a different background color with a much larger font. And I want it to be a monospace font so it looks a little more technical. And let's change the text color to be dark on that light background. You can see what a variety you can achieve. And these can be exported. So if I select that theme, I can export them and import them, share them. And again, these are decoupled from the design. So you can have one person at your company making the look and feel, another making the design, and you can reuse that design from site to site. So if you have a completely different school that you're working on and it has a different theme, you can do the whole layout and then again, select everything. I'm just going to hit Control A to really select everything and recall that theme. And now I've, in one touch, completely reskinned everything without the need for CSS, without the need for code, and without the need for external design assets. Now you can absolutely add external assets. Anywhere there's a color, you can replace it with an image. So you can put in custom fader caps and custom fader backgrounds or whatever it might be, custom icons. All of those are at your disposal. And we'll show you just how easy and powerful that is in the next webinar. So once you've designed your control screen, you might be ready to do your install. But we wanted to provide more capabilities of what you can do offline in your site file before you get on site. Time is very expensive. Time is money on site. And if we can push more work to the design phase when it's at your desk, one person working versus on site with lots of people waiting, that is valuable to everyone. And so one of the key values that we have added is the ability to do full offline emulation. And this is not simulation, this is true emulation because every single processor is actually have the ability to run offline when I'm in operation mode. And this is because the core capabilities of that Cognio operating system are actually running in our design software too. So if I turn on operation mode, first of all, let me hide this for a moment and make everything a little bit bigger so we can see this design. Zoom in. And when in operation mode, I can click this button to turn on a signal generator. And I'm going to choose speech. And let's increase that level. And now I can actually patch in a signal generator into any or multiple signals in my design. And if I zoom in a little bit more, you'll see these are live meters. They are bouncing. They are showing me real audio activity. And in fact, I can troubleshoot my system. I see audio going into this matrix, but it's not coming out. There's a problem with my matrix. Let me open it up and go, oh, of course, I didn't actually route it. So let's route input 1 to output 2, and let's route input 6 there to output 4. And if you were looking, as soon as I did that, these meters started to bounce and I have signal going through these. And again, these are real live signals. If I grab this gain and make a level adjustment, we're going to see the effect of that. Starts to clip and it goes red. So you can do gain staging through your system. Again, all offline without needing any hardware. So you can be sure your entire system is line checked and gain staged properly without any hardware at all a year before you're on site. So when you do get on site, if audio's not coming out of that speaker, it's a hardware issue or a wiring issue. It's not the design. Really saving you time and money. One last thing in operation mode, when you are online, you can see what is going on in your system. We have a clean roll up of everything happening in my system. And I can actually see here that my hardware, software, network audio site, and other, they're all green, they're good. But I'm actually having some communication issues that we set up for this demo. If I select that, this log, which represents the log from all of my software and every single piece of hardware on the network, shows what's going on. And I can troubleshoot that right from the log without having to go and manually check every single device. So for support, if a customer calls, simply go to their site, go to File, pull site from hardware. You'll get the latest site from the hardware. You'll be connected. You'll instantly get a status of all the devices on the system, and you can hopefully see there might be an issue with hardware. You'll select that and troubleshoot the problem immediately. So it makes your troubleshooting, whether it's at commissioning phase or down the road to support a customer, that much easier.